Good morning one more time, and once again, welcome to today's training. So, we are ready to begin. We are going to have facilitators from our dev team who are going to take us through the add-on module and how to set it up for the add-on forms and custom modules that you are implementing. So I hope everyone is ready for this, and we are looking forward to a good learning this morning. So my name is Bernard Utieno. We are going to have Antonio Juang taking over and taking us through the OpenMRS add-on module. So I think without wasting much time, we are just going to uh, give this opportunity to Anthony to start us off and take us through the rest of the training. Thank you. So Anthony, if you are on the call, kindly take it away. Anthony?
Hello. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So this is a sensitization meeting on OpenMRS Kenya EMR add-on module. And I think we'll go through this together so that we all understand what it is to develop OpenMRS and also to add content to Kenya EMR. So I'll quickly share my screen so that we can begin.
He is unreliable, emotionally damaged.
Okay. So we'll start. So so before we begin, I would like us to just understand some concepts around OpenMRS. I know right now everyone understands what OpenMRS is. It's a medical record system which is open source, and it's backed by an active community. The community has members. It draws its members from so many countries, which we will not be able to go through right now. But so it's important to just understand a kind of the building blocks in OpenMRS. And that one brings us to OpenMRS data model. So the system has been modeled in a way, and just to quickly mention, it has a number of content that are they are combined to form what we call OpenMRS. So in this first presentation, I'll just mention the data model so that we understand all these before we dive into the add-on module. So what you see is how OpenMRS is organized. We have, I can call it 3 layers. We have the database layer, which is actually the bottom layer. So OpenMRS supports MySQL out of the box. As you may have noted, we use MySQL database to store information. Just above that, we have the service layer, which actually handles interaction between the database and the front end, what we usually interact with. And then the presentation layer, which basically is what we usually interact with when you interact with Kenya EMR. So the pages you see, the links you see, all those navigations, they are found in the presentation layer. The service layer is basically what manages what you see. So if you say that you want to do registration, you will find an app on the home page. When you click on the app, it takes you to a place where you can search and register a new person or a new patient or a new user. So basically, it's the service layer that handles that interaction. So as you can see, we have modules which are present in both the presentation and the service layer. I know today's presentation focuses more on add-on module, but it's good to highlight that OpenMRS is modular based. That is, it has three major components. We have the database layer. We have what we call the OpenMRS platform. The platform is more of, you may want to look at it as the foundation. So it defines all those common things which cut across many implementations. So they are all wrapped into an OpenMRS platform. And if you want to understand this more, whenever we do a release of Kenya EMR, you will see certain folders within the upgrade package. For example, you will see the modules directory, which basically contains a list of modules. You will also see a directory called web app. So the web app is the platform. It is the foundation of all these. So the web app is solely developed by the core developers, although even distributions or implementations like Kenya EMR have over time contributed to its development. With the database and the platform, OpenMRS uses modules to now introduce the features the users will be interacting with. So for example, some of the modules we have, the ones which have been listed here, whenever you, there is the registration module, which basically handles all registration. If you want to do any forms for a patient, there is a module called HTML form entry, which basically provides you with the forms. It helps with saving, it helps with editing. So OpenMRS uses these modules to actually provide the different functionalities we have in the system.
Excuse me, Anthony.
I'll not dwell on this image so much because we are just starting. Sorry.
Hello, Anthony.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a request that you could move more closer to the microphone. You are very far away.
I'm very far.
Yeah, you sound very far from the microphone.
I'm in a hall.
That is better.
Okay, so I'll lean forward.
I continue.
So should we just proceed from where we are, or there
Yeah,
is some need for clarification?
just proceed.
Hello. Anyway, so I was saying that I'll not dwell so much on the image because we are just starting, and I'll not want to begin with the deep end. So I in the next slides, we'll just show you like how OpenMRS is organized in the backend, and this is basically the tables. We want to present the models in the form of tables, but don't focus so much on the tables. We just want to highlight them. I think when we'll now have that deep dive, we'll then handle them one by one. So it's not very clear. This just shows that we have quite a number of things to consider in the OpenMRS data model. So I'll skip this one. I'll go to the next slide, which actually talks about the concept and the concept dictionary. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Anthony.
Okay, thanks. So we are on the concept and the concept dictionary. In the data model, OpenMRS is backed up by an elaborate concept dictionary, which is, look at it as a collection of terminologies used in the system. So in OpenMRS, for you to actually record something about a patient, that something needs to be defined in the concept dictionary. And just by way of example, for triage, you will have things like weight, height, temperature. For you to record anything about those, you will need to have defined those in the concept dictionary. So look at a concept dictionary as a collection of terminologies which are to be used in the system. So I think we have several advantages for a concept dictionary. First of all, it enforces uniformity across different implementations, because if we are talking about weight, then all implementations we support should have one way of referring to weight, and that is in the concept that is used. So a concept is more of a code. It's more of a code used for data collection. So still using the triage form, we can define a concept with code like 1 to represent temperature. So everyone who implements Kenya EMR, if they see anything in their data with code 1, they'll know that that is temperature. So that's the basic definition of a concept and a concept dictionary. Any question? Yeah, so you may be wondering why we have to cover all these, when you'll realize that when you'll be doing when you'll be developing the add-on module, you'll at one point need to collect data, let's say to add a form, and on that form you will have to use a concept. That's why it's really important to just understand what a concept is and what a concept dictionary is. Let me know if you need any clarification. So the next model is observation. So we've heard of clinical observations. These are basically information recorded, information recorded about patients when they interact with care providers. So an observation is now weight, height, temperature. Remember, we've talked about a concept which is simply a code used to refer to whatever you want to record. So an observation is now the actual information which is collected. So forget about the tables right now, because you'll actually understand them when we'll have the deep dive. So we have then an encounter. An encounter in OpenMRS is simply, it records an interaction between a patient and a care provider. In simple terms, you can just say it's an encounter between a patient and a care provider. So everything recorded during a patient-provider encounter in OpenMRS is modeled in the encounter data model. So after that, we have a patient, which I think we all understand. So after patient, we have a person. And I'll just give a simple analogy of how these data models relate. Look at it in this way. We have somebody who visits, who goes to a health facility, and during the visit, they have one or more encounters with the care providers, let's say a triage, a clinician, and in the pharmacy. During these interactions, or during the encounters, you will most of the time see the care providers taking note. They record certain information. So in OpenMRS, I think the entity around a person, like somebody, is the person data model. And a person can have many forms. We have patients. These are people who visit health facility for care. We have users in the system. They are also persons. So you have a person, and a person, can be in the form of a patient or a user in the system. Now this person goes to a facility. This facility is modeled, the facility is modeled under location. In OpenMRS, we have location. So location simply takes information about the facility. Now, a patient visits a location, visits a facility for care. Now, during the visit, they'll have interactions. These interactions are modeled under encounters. Now, during an encounter, a care provider will fill one or more forms. And as you can see, our next model was a form. Now, on a form, you'll have those questions and answers. The questions and answers, if you say temperature is 37, that is basically an observation. So in the observation model, that's where we record the clinical data collected by care providers about a patient. Yeah, so, and to collect this observation, you need to use codes in the concept dictionary, which are basically the concepts. So here we now have like a patient going to a facility, which is a location. Within the, in that facility, they encounter one or more providers with a number of encounters recorded, and during each encounter, a number of observations are recorded. That is basically a summary or a simple analogy of how the different data models in OpenMRS interact. So these are just some of the data models we have in the system, and it will actually boost our understanding of how OpenMRS is developed once you start developing. Not sure whether we have questions. Do we have questions? Are there any questions?
No, we don't. We haven't seen any questions on the chat, but I think for the guys who have questions, we can use the chat area just to raise your questions. But I think if you want to interrupt the presenter, you can raise up your hand and ask the question verbally. Thank you.
Yeah, as we wait for the questions, I think I'll just mention that OpenMRS data model simply shows how data in OpenMRS is organized. So if you look at the database, if you go into the database, you'll see some of the things we've just covered in the form of tables. The tables are many, but the core models that we need to understand as we prepare to get into add-on module development are just the ones we've covered. Starting from a person who can be a patient or a user in the system. There is one we just mentioned, but has not been highlighted here. There is a visit. During a visit, a patient can have actually 0 or many encounters failed. Now, in each encounter, you'll most of the time find care providers filling forms, and that brings the form data model. And on every form, you will find questions that the care providers will tend to provide answers during their interaction with patients. And what is recorded during those encounters are really observations. Any question?
Anthony, there is a question from Kevin Kamenwa. Kevin, you can just ask the question.
Yeah, thank you. So I was just asking how now those tables are actually mapped to the ETL tables.
Oh yeah, thanks, Kevin. I think we can actually keep that question so that we get to it once we've covered a bit more context. Context. But we'll surely answer it.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, any other question before we proceed? Okay, I'll stop sharing this one and pull up another presentation. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes. See,
Okay.
it's seen.
Thank you. So we will continue to dwell on the things that matter for the add-on module development, and our next presentation is on the concept dictionary. So I mentioned the concept and concept dictionary in the data model presentation, but it requires a bit of attention so that we get things right. So, and the big issue here is about reuse and a common way of referring to things in the system. Right now, just for the implementations that run Kenya EMR, suppose we were to use different terms to refer to the same things, we will have issues when it comes to reporting, because we'll not be able to know exactly what every implementation meant by using a different, if they were to use different terms for the same thing. I'll give an example. I think in other, so we have two ways of doing forms in systems. One is you just have a column in a table that stores the information collected about a variable. So if you were to maintain this one column, that's a good idea. Issues arise when you have different people in adding new columns which still collect this same information. And I think the challenge is very obvious. If you are to like even ask what's the latest observation that was recorded, you'll then be required to consult all the columns where you are storing this information. In OpenMRS, you will realize that in observations, I mean clinical information, clinical observations about a patient are not recorded in any I mean in some sort of specific table columns. Rather, there is one table called observation. It's called the OBS. The OBS basically stores everything about clinical observations. So in order to model that, we needed to come up with a good concept dictionary which could be used across all implementations, so that if we were to record height or weight, the same code used in one implementation is what is used in the other one. So the main idea around having a concept dictionary is to foster reuse across implementations and commonality in presentation of the medical, can I say, variables. Yeah, so we'll just proceed. Basis of the dictionary. So here we just have basically what I've talked about, but a concept is like it's a variable. It's a variable. It's a code that we use in the system to record information about a clinical observation. So if you are to dive deeper, you will find that concept is not just a one-term thing. We have several things to know about a concept. OpenMRS boasts an international concept dictionary with mappings to other non-standard dictionaries. So to enable that, whatever you see like synonyms, concept set, concept class, data type, those are the requirements to help with search. And I'll not dwell on this. I'll start talking about concepts when we get to this slide. So we have different, okay, so people collect different information about patients. Some of those require just text answers. For example, clinical notes are basically of type string. I mean, it's just a text. You want to, it's a narrative. So the concept that will help collect that should be of some type, so that you are able to collect the right information. So some concepts are of test class. We have the lab module in OpenMRS or in Kenya EMR. So if you are to record viral load result, you will have to use a concept. That concept should be of class test. We have procedures which are done on patients. We have those that record drugs. We have those that record diagnosis, findings, and we have questions. So in OpenMRS, in general, look at a concept as the term used for the question and the term used for the answer. So it's a question answer pair. So whatever you use, you know, in a flat table approach, something like height, you'll have a table called triage with the column height. So to record that, you just look for table triage and record whatever is observed in the height column. Now in OpenMRS, we are using just one table, whether it's height, whether it's temperature, whether it's nodes, whether it's what, diagnosis, it all goes in one table, and that table is the OBS. So there has, in that table, you are required to specify the concept for the question. In this case, it's height. So there is a code for that. And then the answer. So depending on what we will be doing, you'll realize that there is just a specific way of modeling concepts. So, and these are the data types of concepts. It basically tells what that concept stores. Something like weight is numeric because you will enter something like 59. If you have a concept like population type, and then you provide options, those options are still concepts. And it then brings us to coded concepts. So we have a question which is population type, and the answers which will be selected are still concepts, so they are coded. So that, the concept for population type, therefore, is coded because both question and answers are actually concepts. We have Boolean, just the yes, no things, and then, not applicable simply means you cannot use that concept to store anything. You can only use it as an answer. But let me not complicate things at this level. So importance of concept dictionary, I think it's obvious. We want to foster a common way of representing the terms, the terminologies we use in the system, and also reuse. I think those two are very major when it comes to the importance of having a concept dictionary. We will not be creating concepts, but it's still important to note that for you to create a concept, you actually need to have the expertise. So it's not just anything you'll wake up and start creating concepts. I'm sure we have those who may have been confused with what we've been covering because it's all new to you. But once you have that domain expert, nothing is difficult. But then all this will be controlled centrally so that whatever CHS Tegemeza creates as a new concept can actually be reused by CHS Shinda or EGPAF or any other service delivery partner. So all the creation of new concepts, yes, there is domain expertise required, but still we will have to control creation of new concepts just so that we keep having the same version of the concept dictionary. That brings us to the end of our overview of the concept and the concept dictionary. I'm sure here we must be having questions. So we'll take we can take some break, and as you ask the questions, and we'll try to answer them. Any question? Do you have questions?
So there is a question from Hastings. I don't know, Hastings, if you could just ask the question verbally, you can just unmute and ask the question. Okay, so let me ask on his behalf. I think he has a microphone issue. So the question is, where does the string fall in the concept data type, in the concepts data type, or is it not part of it? So I think he's asking how the string falls into the concept types. In which data types will you classify a string?
Okay, so I think we can. Okay, being technical, some of these may not be well captured on slides. So we may want to just show some of these. Practically. So I hope you can see my screen. So this is Kenya EMR, and I'll take you through the practical session on concepts so that we have a sense of what we are talking about. So if you log in as an admin, you'll be able to, so behind this homepage, I think we have the apps, and the developer app has access to some of the things that we talk about. So this is the OpenMRS. I can say the core platform. Most of the time, if you can see where my cursor is, it tells us the version of the core platform that we are running. Right now, it's version 1.12.1. It was last built on, this is in March. So this is, when I introduced the data model, I talked about the database, which I said to be MySQL. I talked about the platform, which is the foundation. And on the foundation, we have modules. So right now, our foundation, the platform, is version 1.12.1. The platform is mainly developed by co-developers, but we still have our inputs as distributions, or can I say, yeah, distribution developers. So this is OpenMRS core platform. And if you come to under modules, we can see manage modules and module properties. When we come to modules, this one shows a list of all modules that we are running here. So it's basically the name of the module, the version, the author, and description. So when we talk about platform and modules, so the platform is version 1.12.1 with the modules. These modules are now part of the Kenya EMR distribution. So if you talk about Kenya EMR distribution, you'll be talking about all these modules listed here. Other distributions have their set of modules. Some of them are core modules developed by the OpenMRS core team, and others are custom modules which are developed by implementations like Palladium. And now that you'll be developing add-on modules, you'll join in that list of module developers. So I was just trying to unravel the architecture we had talked about, which is the database, which is MySQL, the platform, which in this case is OpenMRS 1.12.1, and a set of modules which we have here. So if you are to add a module, there are two ways of deploying the module. First of all, there is this add or upgrade module. If you click on this, it asks you like to choose something to upload. So once you'll have that module, you'll definitely have something to upload. So when you choose on that file and then click on upload, the module will be uploaded. Basically, OpenMRS will start. After if the startup is successful, you'll be able to see all that you had put in the module that you uploaded. But in a nutshell, I just wanted to show that the architecture has a database, which is MySQL, the platform, which is in this case is OpenMRS 1.12.1, and a set of modules, which we can see here. Now, back to the concept dictionary. We have a link here called dictionary. If you click on dictionary, you can search the dictionary so that you get what you just try look for things you want. For example, if we look for weight, we have a number of concepts, actually 53, which have they have the weight name in it. So you can search by concept ID or a concept name. I had not talked about a concept in details, but look at a concept to be a code. And this code should have a name, it should have description, it should have an ID. So all those I think will come in handy when you want to look for what to use in your development. So like in this case, we have something like birth weight qualitative. If we say show details, we can see something. So qualitative will have the answers low, normal, or high. Weight gain, I mean, things like this. But what we want, what we usually use in triage form, is it 5096? Eh? No. Wait, no. Anyway, we can just search. We remove this. We can show up to 100. Basically, we have we have height in centimeter. I'm looking for weight in kg. Here we have baseline weight in kg. So if you are to, okay, we have weight in kg, we have birth weight, you know. So these are some of the concepts which have been modeled to record weight for a patient. So if we select on weight, it opens this. So the ID for the concept we are talking about is 5089, I think, and then we have description, patient's weight in kilograms. The data type is numeric, and it's a finding because, you know, it's a provider asking about, I mean, trying to get a patient weight. So whatever he or she will get is more of a finding. Whatever we'll record will be numeric. And we have like, I mean, I think I'll just want to stop at that so that we don't cover so much about concepts today. But my point is the concept dictionary has definition of concepts that are used for certain clinical observations. This is concept weight. If we just search again, we have birth weight. If you look at birth weight, it's a totally different concept, as you can see from the ID. So this is what we call concepts in OpenMRS, and it's what we call concept dictionary in OpenMRS. So before I can answer the question which was asked, something like notes, clinician notes. If you look for notes, you'll find something like clinician notes. And okay, so as you can see, for this concept, it's a coded type. So it means if you are to, if you wanted to record like a narrative, you'll not be able to use this concept to record your notes. This is more of a coded, if you are to provide options for notes so that things are coded, this is the concept to look for. Otherwise, you'll need to look for other concepts. And I think we can look for free text comment or free text general, which is of data type text. So the question about which where string falls, it falls under text data type. It falls under text data type. So, and in this case, text, I think anything you'd want to narrate can be handled by this. And the description is here. This is a free text field for general use. It should be tied for another concept. You don't have to understand that one right now. So I think that is what we have on concepts and the concept dictionary. To actually create a new concept, we have all these here. But as I mentioned, you really don't have to do this right now because it's a bit, you really need to understand what you want to collect so that whatever you create as a concept can be reused across all implementations running Kenya EMR. So I think for now, we will manage creation of concepts centrally so that we distribute them to all distributions. That way, we will have a commonality across implementations, and also reuse. Any question? Did I confuse people? Did I confuse you?
A representative has said no, they're okay.
Okay, okay, thanks. Okay, I'll back here. We talked about the different data models. So we have person here, and a person is basically just somebody in the system. That somebody can be in the form of a patient, that somebody can be a user. So the data model we captured, or we talked about, you can see it here. You can manage persons. That's where you can do new registration and stuff. And if you want like patient-specific stuff, you have the patient data model where you can manage patients, you can find, basically you can do stuff. If you want user-specific data model, you don't use person, you just come to user data model. We have the visits, and here we have the visit data model. A visit is just from the English term. A patient goes to it. A patient makes a visit to a facility. A visit simply captures when that happened. Maybe, yeah, when is the date? Maybe the type of visit, was it outpatient or inpatient? Things like when did the visit start and when it ended. So during a visit, a patient will have encounters with care providers, and for that we use the encounter data model. So you'll just need to say, so which encounter was it? And which encounter simply means, was it at a triage encounter? Was it a pharmacy encounter? Was it a lab encounter? And uh, 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 yeah, so basically that's what we capture under encounters. Now, to record clinical observations, there is the observation data model, where you now record, like you are with the patient, from observation, from the questions you ask, you take note of the responses, and that's where we now use the observation data model. So it's in the observation where we need to use the concepts. And that's why we had to look at concepts and concept dictionary. Maybe I didn't mention, okay, we know that when care providers interact with patients, they may have forms to fill, and in those forms is where we have in the observation. So sorry, I forgot to bring the picture clearly, but it is visit, encounter, form, and then observation. And it's under observation where you need to be clear on which variables you are talking about. And to answer which variable, you'll be talking about the concept and the concept dictionary. Yeah, so that was more of wrap up on the data model and the concept dictionary. I'll pause just to see if there are any questions. If not, we'll now get to add-on module development. Any question? Any question? Okay. So I'll just share this and share another one. Confirm that you can see my screen. Can you see my slides?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I think it's good to just prepare you a bit. Add-on module is really I can call it low-level development in Kenya EMR because we already have conventions. Yes, it's programming. It is slightly technical, but with the understanding of the building blocks, you will just need to do things as provided by the conventions, and everything will just run smoothly. So here we are talking about programming within OpenMRS. And for you to do this, basically, you'll be a developer in some way, although we will always work together to make sure that you just do the things which you require. The rest we can always handle from this side. And yes, this brings us to some things that you use. I mean, in development, you will need an editor, just like when doing a Word document, you will need to install Microsoft Office and the Word application to be specific. So for development, you will need an editor. I think for devs, you all understand this. And just to make sure that you can collaborate on what you do, we use Git. Yeah, we use Git. So that's basically what we'll need. And then before any development work, you may just want to understand what conventions are used in the system. And these are, we will be developing modules. So you just need to know, so how do we name these modules? How do we present our code? How do we handle attribution? Because, for example, if I was to do a module right now, I'll attribute that to Palladium, or I will just attribute it to Palladium developers. If CHS Tegemeza wants to do a module, instead of having one name of a developer, the convention is, okay, just attribute it to the group so that I mean, for ownership and stuff like that. So we have links here for conventions. We'll share this so that you can go through them later on. But right now we are right into module development. So I'll go through the architecture once more. A high level OpenMRS architecture presents the following layers. We have the application layer, which is basically what you see. We have the service layer, which is basically the code that you write. And then the database layer, which is basically where our data is stored. Now, we have OpenMRS platform, which we said in our case in Kenya EMR distribution, we are still running on OpenMRS 1.12.1. We then have modules, and these modules are just a way of injecting some user functionality in the EMR. So module development is actually a way of adding features to the OpenMRS platform. Yes, we are running on 1.12.1, but there are modules which we may need. For example, we recently added PrEP, we recently added OTZ, OVC, KP. All those were through modules. Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, OpenMRS is modular based, where features are added through modules. So modules are built on OpenMRS. I mean, it's a way of extending OpenMRS, and it actually provides for easy development of ad hoc features. So some of these are just resources you may need once you start doing this. Yeah, and yeah, we have covered this one, the architecture. And now I think we are in the add-on module for Kenya EMR. You may need to note the the switch from OpenMRS to Kenya EMR. Yes, we have OpenMRS, which is the platform, and then we have Kenya EMR, which is a distribution. A distribution provides, okay, a distribution is a set of modules that runs on the platform. So we have the database, platform, and modules. Modules can be the general OpenMRS modules or Kenya EMR add-on module. So what is a Kenya EMR add-on module? It's just a regular OpenMRS module that injects content to Kenya EMR. So I know right now what distributions use. You use what is provided by Palladium. There is nothing beyond that. And I think in order to provide for extensions to Kenya EMR, there was a thought for an add-on module, and this has been in existence, I think, right from a few years back. Some of the modules we actually add to Kenya EMR are through, are the add-on modules. So it's nothing new. We've been using them. You've been using them. So right now it's just about understanding how they are developed. And when we talk about an add-on module, these are some of the content you will be able to inject. One, at the apps. If you log into Kenya EMR, you will be taken to the home page. On the home page, you will find different apps. So if you are to add another app that does your program specific stuff, an add-on module is where you will need to do that. And you will be able to actually add it to the home page. So it comes with permissions, privileges. So it's not just open. If you are to add an app, you will define a lot of security stuff so that just the right people are able to see the app that is added. I can talk about, if you look at, I think there is facility dashboard app in Kenya EMR. There is also the ETL. Those are apps. If you look at the developer app, all those were just added through this. Now, the next thing you can inject are the metadata. So in systems, we have data and metadata. So data is what you record. Metadata is the description of what you record. It's data about data. I don't know how to say it. Okay, by way of example, we have unique patient number. Let me call it CCC number. CCC number is an identifier in the system. So if you write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's the actual data. But remember, this data, you need to tag it so that people see it as the CCC number. So where you will be defining this CCC number is what we call the metadata. So you will add several identifier types in the system, and those identifier types are actually the metadata because you want to collect identifiers. Another example are the concepts and the observation. I showed you concept for weight, and what we saw is just the concept ID and maybe the data type. It just shows that it's a numeric one. But you see, when you now want to collect actual patient, clinical observation, you will need to record weight as 89 kgs. So 89 is the actual data, whereas the concept is the metadata. So there are things you can inject to Kenya EMR in the context of metadata. You can add forms to Kenya EMR. Right now, Kenya EMR has 2 categories of forms. We have common forms, and these include things like triage. Irrespective of which program a patient is enrolled, you will still be able to see those forms when you are seeing that client. We also have program forms, program-specific forms. Things to do with the green card will only be visible to providers once a patient is enrolled in HIV. Now, through an add-on module, you can add forms, be it a common form or a program form. You can add programs, and right now we have just a number of programs, with the latest being KP. Through an add-on module, you can add a program. I'll give an example. For KNH, I think they have inpatient. They can add that as a program, but we will still need to guide you because there is some threshold for a program. If you want to know, like, let me just say something that begins and ends at some point. That is what can be modeled as a program. Things that don't end, I think, cannot be modeled under programs. But we can discuss this further when we'll have the deep dive. We have patient flags in Kenya BMR. When you search for a patient and get to the profile page, we have these things, that the alerts that have a yellow background. We call them flags in in Kenya EMR. So through an add-on module, you can add flags so that there is what Palladium will provide. There are those things that you will require that we don't provide in the form of in terms of flags. So an add-on module provides a way of injecting those. We already talked about identifiers. We have KNH number, if there was CHS number, if there was EGPAF number. Think of any identifier, you can add it through add-on module. You can add reports to Kenya EMR through add-on module. And lastly, we have things called chores. You may, I don't know how to explain this, but a chore is a one-time task in the system. Let's say you've realized that your unique numbers are 12 digits, and then there was a standard used. Maybe there is an hyphen in between. So you want to reduce them to 11 through the use, by removing the hyphen. I'm talking about things that are like, the standard things that you still want to correct. You can do a chore. A chore runs when Kenya EMR is just ready to start. So it will make that correction. And yeah, I've mentioned that it will only run once. So even in subsequent restarts, it will not run again. So these are some of the things that you can inject through an add-on module, which I think covers really what you people have or can or may want to add to Kenya EMR. Oh, did I mention forms? Yeah, so for forms, I think, yeah. In IQCare, there was the form builder. Unfortunately, yes, there is form builder in OpenMRS, but those forms will not be available when you do Kenya EMR. So there is form builder, but it's still technical. It's drag and drop, but then there is an easier way, a way which is actually easier to can I say? Yeah, so you do it once and have it in all the facilities that you support. I think add-on module is what we require. Okay, so we can talk about some modules in Kenya EMR which are actually add-on modules. At one point, we added the surge reports. Surge reports is an add-on module in Kenya EMR. So you can decide to stop the module, you can decide to start the module, but when it's started, it will inject the things that we've listed here to Kenya EMR. If it's stopped, it will actually, the things that were injected will be removed. So if you just have maybe a report which you maybe think will only take will only be required for 6 months or so. You can do it in an add-on module, distribute it to facilities where you support. They will be injected in Kenya EMR. People will do it once it ceases being useful. You can simply just stop it or just remove it from Kenya EMR modules. I'll take a pause and yeah, just for you to ask any question you may have.
Hi, Anthony. My name is Victor. Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I have a question because we've not dealt with Kenya EMR before. This will be our first installation. Now, talking of the add-on modules, in comparing to what we had in IQCare, the form builders. So maybe if I was to add something to Kenya EMR, and then there is an update from maybe Palladium, how is the control of maybe or the versioning to ensure that whatever has been added, or what is the process that it takes to have something added on to Kenya EMR vis-a-vis the releases that will be coming from Palladium? Yeah.
Thanks, Victor. That's a good question. So first of all, let me say that even as we develop add-on modules, their features will be harvested into the core Kenya EMR. So if let's say you've added something that is of use to other partners, we can actually pick that module, add it to the core Kenya EMR distribution, so that every partner now have access to it. But an add-on module is a bit independent. So remember, it's done outside Kenya EMR distribution, but by following the conventions that are required. With that, well, whenever there will be updates for Kenya EMR, you'll simply, when we have an update, we usually distribute a set of modules. So what you'll be doing, you just pick what we've provided, copy your modules, the add-on modules, and just upgrade. So basically, it will be part of the new upgrade. So you will not lose anything. You will not lose anything. And it's just an independent way of ensuring that you still keep the things that you had developed. Even with updates, with releases, you are sure that the forms you added, the reports you added are still intact. Over?
Okay, thanks. That's clear.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
I also have a question.
Okay.
My name is Irene. I work with Chuck. So my question also related to what Victor has asked is when if your partner want to do some add-on in the EMR, will we require a prior authorization, maybe from NASCOP, from elsewhere, or we just need to discuss it with Palladium, we agree and we go ahead?
I think system-wise, just think of it like this. There is something you need to do in the system. Most of the time, you will find yourself doing an Excel sheet, right? With that Excel, you'll be able to collect data until maybe Palladium provides a solution. Now, with an add-on module, I think there is no prior authorization required. We just need to plan together so that if you want to collect variables that may not have been provided in the concept dictionary, we just make sure that we add the concepts for the benefit of other players who may want to use them in future. And then you just proceed with your add-on. I think it's something private to you, personal to you, to your implementation. So there is no prior authorization. Look at it just as doing an Excel sheet or an Excel document to help capture data. That's what the add-on module will provide. Was that clear?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Any other question?
Yes, Anthony. So just a clarification. For the add-on modules, is it affected by upgrades? Like if I put a module today and Palladium gives another release like next month, is it affected by the upgrade?
Yeah. Maybe let me just show what we are talking about. Just a moment. Not sure what you are seeing. What do you see?
Contact tracing.
Oh, sawa. So if we come to, I just want to show you how our releases are packaged. think we have, oh, I couldn't find this anyway. Sawa. So if we look at, I'll just pick on this. This was a release that was done in March. So if you look at how we usually provide the release, we have dictionary, which is basically the latest concept dictionary. That explains why even if you are to do an add-on module, we may need to just work on the dictionary together so that whenever we do an upgrade, all your changes will be sure that your changes will be in the latest dictionary. And then we have the web app, which is basically the platform, the core OpenMRS platform, and then the modules. So if you just look at the modules, these are just the set of modules used in Kenya EMR. So if you are to have an add-on module, if we give a release, what you do is you just yeah, get the release, get to the modules folder, and copy your add-on modules into the modules directory. That way, if you upgrade, you will always make sure that your add-on modules are part of the latest distribution. Even if you don't do that, you can always just from the UI of OpenMRS, you can still add the add-on modules. So basically, your add-on modules are, can I say, immune? They are immune to any disruptions from our side, because you can always take what we have provided and then add yours every time we have a release. Was that clear?
Yes, very clear. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So, any more questions? Hello. Um, I like in this, just in the set of modules that we have here, we have extra. Yeah, so these extras is what provide the surge reports. If you remove these extras modules in your modules folder, you'll actually, the surge report will just disappear. If you reintroduce it, it will appear again. So look at an add-on module as just a way of injecting more stuff to Kenya EMR. And I'd also mentioned that you can actually inject, you can actually do the updates right from the UI. I'm looking for UI here. Just a moment. Oh, yeah. Where is my UI? Stop these. Yeah, so yeah, I just mentioned earlier that sorry. You still see my screen?
Yes.
The Kenya EMR one, right?
No, the folders.
Oh, okay. Rugut, you should actually help me answer some questions.
I will.
You should also ask on yeah, because I think you have interacted with this, so it's not anything new to you.
Sure.
I'm trying to look for a window. Okay. So I'm sure you can now see Kenya EMR. You can add add-on modules through this one. This button is for stopping a module. When it's stopped, you will find, you'll find a button for starting. So this side actually is just for module management. You can start, stop modules. So if you have an add-on module, you just add one, click on that button, choose a module to add. If you want to upgrade an existing one, you do it from here, and then you just upload. That will initiate restart of Kenya EMR, and when it's done, you'll actually find the things that you've injected. So, and as I'd mentioned, a number of things have been injected through add-on modules. We have HTS screening form. We added that through an add-on module. We have the surge reports. We added that through add-on modules. We have apps like Kenya EMR ETL and facility dashboard. All those have been through add-on modules. Yeah, so you have quite a list of things that you can add to Kenya EMR, apart from those that have been provided out of the box. Yeah, I can see a question from Hastings, okay, if that's the pronunciation. Does it mean that each add-on module has to be independent completely? For example, if build do you mind just voicing the question?
Okay, yeah, I'm asking if you're building a module and then because you don't want to do everything, there are some things that it depends on some modules that already are there. So you build on those so that you can have your own module. And then there is an update for those core modules have some changes. Will that not affect the module that had some dependencies on the core modules?
Do you mind giving just an example? So let's say the core module provides what, and then your module wants to provide what?
Okay. I don't right now. I can't think of an example, but maybe you actually doing a module that is an extension of a module that is in the system because you want maybe more information. So how do you go about that? Because you don't have to redo the whole module because maybe there's some information that a module will help you capture. Maybe you are doing something that's for HIV. You're doing something to do with viral load already in the system, but now you want to add something that is not part of the module that is there, but you want to extend some viral load other indicators or something like that.
Okay. So I think right now we only support content which does not alter an existing content. For example, when we talk about forms, we are looking at like a whole form, a totally separate form, and not maybe getting to the green card and adding a variable under next appointment date. I think that is a bit intrusive, and right now we don't have support for that. What we support in terms of forms would be just adding a separate form which will be available when providers will be seeing patients or when doing data entry for patients. And I think some of these can be, yeah, that's the level of injection we support. So don't interfere with the existing form. Just add something that provides something in a totally separate form. Even in terms of reports, you don't interfere with what is there. You see, like surge reports, yeah, they use the same. I mean, data is extracted from the same HIV forms, but it's a separate report. So even if you are to do stuff, you can use the standard reports in the system, but also have access to this extra report that you added through an add-on module. Did that clear
Yes.
your question? Okay, thanks. But I think as we engage further, we will really understand the kind of needs you have for the add-on modules, and then we just try and strike a balance on the best approaches to provide them. Basically, you will be joining us in the development of Kenya EMR. Any other question? Any other question? Can we add a quick report to the reports module for demo? Kevin, it's okay. So it's just a moment. Kevin,
Yes.
yeah, not sure whether to, we had created some quick modules for you.
Okay.
No, we just added, we have one for KNH, we created one for Irdo. I think we'll need to create these ones for all of us so that we can start playing around with them.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, it's a process to add a report. we need to actually go through the process of adding these things. Now, the actual doing, today it's been more of an overview of what to expect in an add-on model. But we can actually, okay, I don't know whether we are ready to get to code. Let me just see. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
It's showing some code-like things, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I never wanted to do this, but it is okay. We can actually maybe first of all I share. I just share this on chat. If you go through that, there is a procedure that is used to set up an add-on module so that whatever you inject can actually be visible in Kenya UMR. So yeah, so maybe I just show you this. It's all documented here. So you basically need to require, so you need to depend on Kenya EMR, and then adding an app on the form is simply doing something like this. Okay, we have other things called fragments. These are just views, views, HTML views. Yeah. So, an app, when you click on registration app, it takes you to a view, it takes you to a page. So you will be taken through how to add an app and add those pages. You can add metadata like encounter types. Let's say this is just an example encounter type. You can add a form. And we have documented like what to do. You can add like yeah, and configure this form to be a general visit form. You can add a program, and you can add a report like this. So I think, well, I never wanted us to combine today's with this technical thing, because we'll need a bit of dirty hands to just show you. But just to show that we can add stuff, maybe you suggest something for the next session where we can work with the indicators that we already collect in the system. Just do a quick report and see how it comes. Is that okay with you?
Yes, that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I think we've created a few add-on modules for you. We'll still need to create more so that we shield you from, I mean, having to set up what to put. So we will try and create initial modules, and then you'll just be adding contacts to them. I hope that's okay with you. Yeah, so I think our time seems to be over. Unless there are questions, I'll just hand it back to you. Yeah. So any questions, any suggestions for the next session? I think we'll gladly receive them.
Anthony, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it is related to this, but a question on how to maybe render an add-on module to a mobile, the way it is done for the HTS in Muzima. I mean, what does it take? Is it an easy thing to do, or that is a whole different thing, different from this?
So by rendering, you mean providing the forms that are provided in the add-on module, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the mobile apps are just clients. Once you have defined stuff in Kenya EMR, you can actually, so the way we've been doing them, we do like sister forms for the mobile. When they are submitted, they are automatically mapped to those ones in the EMR. So you'll do a form for the EMR, you'll do a form for the mobile, and then they'll just be filled. I think it's the same thing. It's not difficult. So whatever you define in the EMR, you can actually collect that information using the mobile apps. But you'll need to do a form for the mobile app, which we can gladly take you through. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of importance is to just know about the concept dictionary. Are there concepts? Have you picked the right concepts? Stuff like that. Once that, I think that is always what is difficult. Once you identify the right concepts, I think building of forms, even the most difficult form, the most complex form, I think should not take a long time. Yeah, so I think in our next session, we will actually add a form, we will add a report, we will add maybe an identifier, right? We can add flags, we can add, we will basically touch on everything, although it will be, we'll use the minimalist approach where we'll just brush through the concepts. So this was more of introductory to what we plan to have next time. So if you want your use case to be used, if you want your scenarios to be used, I think you can share them so that as we go through them, it kind of help you shape your thoughts and your mind around what you will need to do or you will require to when developing the add-on module. So we can have maybe a suggestion for a form, just a short one, one for a simple report, one for maybe an identifier, one for a flag. Then we just show you how that is done in the next session. Back to you, Tieno.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anthony, for that session. But I think maybe before we end it, it would be good to just kind of lock a date for the next session. So then all of us are aware and we can prepare better if we know when that date is. I don't know if you have a date in mind when we could reconvene.
Yeah, I think we can have it next week. Not sure when is appropriate.
How about next week, same day, same time?
I think that's okay with me.
So I don't know, are we all in agreement about next week, Thursday, same time between 10 and 12? Silence means concurrence in this case, if I'm not wrong.
No, you may be wrong. Let's hear from them. Are we in agreement on the date for the next session?
You are all in agreement. I think there is a request if we could stretch it a little bit for 3 hours as opposed to 2. Guys are feeling that 2 hours is too short for a technical session. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Okay, so it will be from, so do we say from 9 or from 10? 10 to 1 or 9 to 12? Okay.
10 to 1.
Yeah, I think 10 to 1. That's okay. So then we'll meet up next week, same time, but we'll stretch it for 3 hours. I don't know, Anthony, if you'll be able to receive use cases prior to the training so that maybe it could be more practical and you could make it more relevant to us, a particular use case.
Yeah, so I think that's why I'd suggested that if we can have suggestions on reports, on forms, on maybe additional identifier, something like that, maybe a program, you know, so that, I mean, at least a service, let's say CHS and Naishi suggests a report, another partner suggests a form, so that we kind of balance. But you can receive them and just share. I'm sure there is a mailing list already, so we can use that for the same. Unless you have other solutions.
Maybe I'll just provide an email address right here.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so I've just shared my email address on the chat section. You can yeah, so you can send your suggestions ahead of time, probably all the way to Wednesday. Then I think on Thursday we'll use those. Okay. So I don't know if there is any further comment before we call it a day. Also, just to inform you that the session was recorded. I'll be uploading it to the YouTube. So should you want to go over it one more time just for a more personalized understanding, feel free to go to our YouTube channel and you'll find it there in the next 1 hour. So if there are no more suggestions or comments, I think I want to thank you for taking your time to attend and also to start it pretty much on time. So if you can maintain that same tempo next week, let's try and start the meeting at exactly 10. So we'll send out the calendar invite, the Zoom link for next week's training to this team. So look out for that as well. Otherwise, thank you very much and have a nice Thursday. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.